Hey everyone, welcome to this new web series for the Python Object-Oriented Programming or OOP. Within this series, we will take this OOP and we are decomposing every element in a very practical examples to understand it better. So by the end of this series, you will have a practical experience how the objects are working in Python. And after that, we will start a small project. We are going to use a Python core server library, and by explaining how the objects are working, we are going to create a server and also communicate with the browser and see how using object we can get comfortable to have a very good program to working with Python. Today, we are starting the first episode on introducing the Python Object-Oriented Programming or OOP. We are going to focus on classes, instances, and attribute and understand each one of them. So first of all, let's start with the class, which is the most fundamental part of the object-oriented programming because that will be the design of the shape of the object that we are going to use. So the class is not a memory place, but a way to show how the object will behave. Today we are going to see the simplest shape of a class and we are going to build on it in the future episodes. So first of all, to declare a class is as simple as writing a class and then give a name to the class. So we are going to call it a book and we are just going to pass. We are not going to add no other element to the class for this moment. And after that, so this part, the class here, is not a memory location, is a shape of how the object will be treated. But today is a pass, so we are going to create a kind of empty object initially, but just to understand how these objects are behaving. So let's start creating an object or what is called an instance. We can change those words, are almost same. So let's create the first object. We call it book1, for example. And that will be equal a book here with a parenthesis. So this object has been created. Now we do have this instance of the class or an object that will have the shape of this class. But now this is an empty class, so we do not have really a lot to see inside it. So let's create another object just to see what's going to happen if we have another object created from this class. So by doing so and printing both of them, we will understand what's going on with them. So book 1, and then let's also create the book 2 to see how this is going to happen. So let's save here and go to the console and print to see what's going on. So this is what is printed. We do have book object. So this is an instance or an object of the class book at this memory location, which is my favorite location, by the way. And the second one is also a book object at a different memory location. And you can see this are two different locations. So these two objects are two separate objects and they are not connected in any ways. Even they are created from the same class, they are fully different memory location in the computer. Okay, so now we have seen that we created two objects, but up to now, those objects are useful, or these instances are useful as they can bundle a lot of data. So we can put a lot of data connected directly with those objects. So let's take, for example, the book 1 or the book 1, and we add by adding what we call the attribute. So if I add here, so we have a list here, but we will check it later on. Let's add title. A book 1.title, and we put here introduction to the wheel. Hopefully one day we will have this book. Okay, and we do have here the object have now an attribute, a title, or a certain memory connected to it, and I can add another attribute. I can add as much as I want attributes. So I go to book 1 again, and I put authors. And as usually we can have many authors for one book, so let's create a list and we can put whatever type of data within the attribute that we create. So we can put view and let's create a bunch of other people like this. Okay, so now let's save and print those memories and to see what happens. So if I put book 1 and I add here the title, and after that I would print the book one also, and but here authors, just to see what will happen. So let's save here and go to the console again, and you can see that now I can access to this data from this object, and this is where is all the power of the object. All the attributes or the data you wanted to put together are connected to this object. So you can bundle your data in one object, but just at the same time. If I do and print the book 2, for example, and I check for a title and save and try to run, what will happen? I will get an error because they say book object has no attribute title. As far as the title is not declared, we are not able to use it at this time. So we will see later on how the inside the class this will affect the object or the instance itself. So what we need to do is to copy again those one here and to put book 2 and book 2, and let's use another word, another like our book title. Let's say the 7 habits, for example, like this. And also let's put the author. For this one there's only one author. I think it's Stephen Covey. If I'm wrong, please put it in the comment. So it's a Stephen Covey, like this. So now if I do copy, print again, and save here book 2 authors, and I run my program, so I do have here 7 introduction to the wheel, and then we have the authors of the book 1, and after that we do have the book 2 data. So this is how we start with the objects. First of all, we need to create the class, and after that we are going to take or initiate instances connect to this class. And finally, we will start putting data within those attributes, within these instances of the class by using those attributes. So that was the first introduction. I hope it was not very complicated. And in the next step, we will see more how we can update or add more things to this class part so we can enrich our objects. In the previous episode, we went through creating a class and then initiate or declare object from this class, and finally adding attribute to those objects. So today we will see how by adding attribute or class attribute, this will affect our impact our object. So first of all, this is how we can declare the class attribute. So we just add variable names. So let's say a book is a paper-based, and we will put as a true. That will be a Boolean answer. And then we can add also the language of the book. And let's add here, maybe we start with the Japanese, why not? Okay, so by doing so, let's see how my object is directly impacted. So if I go here and put print my book 1, so also see immediately when I add a dot here, you can see that I do have on the top here, VS is showing me, the VS Code is showing me already that there is 2 attributes that have been added, and also the type of this attribute. The first one, language, is a string, while the second one, paper-based, is a bool. So it's really helpful. The program or the editor is already helping us. So let's put language here, and also let's print it for the book 2, just to see what's going on, because it's happening also the same thing for the book 2. So let's put here the language and let's print and see what's going on. So print, sorry, here it's not print but Python, and we are going to check for, so we do have both of them are in Japanese. However, introduction to the wheel is still not in Japanese. So let's go and change it. So if I go here and put book 1 and putting here the language, and that will be equal to, let's say, in English initially. Okay, so if I do save and print again both of them, and run again in the command line. So we can see it has been Japanese and Japanese. And after that, I have changed the book1 language. Now it's in English and Japanese. So what we understand from this, by adding those class variable, this class variable will be a variable connected to the object independently. And each object will have the ability to change it. So we can also go again and go the book2. If we go to the book2, and this one is not paper-based, and we could put false. Okay, so if we print, so let's here just comment everything just to not be overwhelmed with the console, and go here back, and we put book1 so we can print both of them here first. So let's go back, print this one, but not instead of having the language, we can check the paper-based here, and this one paper-based. Nope, not this. Something paper-based like this, and copy-paste again. And let's see what kind of result we will have. So let's save, clean a little bit the console, and run again the program. So what we do have here, in the first two prints, we do have true and true. And this is the value that we initially added within our class variable. And this has been initiated immediately when we initiated the object itself. But after that, we have changed one of the variable at one of the second object that we created. And you can see here that this variable has changed within the second object. So like this, having class variables is a kind of initiation of certain variable for each project, for each object we declare and create. That was a short video to explain how the class variable works. So now we are going to jump and to understand a method connected to a class. And today we are going to continue working on our tutorial for the Python object-oriented programming, and we are going to focus on the normal method. Why I'm saying normal? Because attached to a class there is so many other type of method that this one is considered as normal. And this normal method is written like this one. So we do have our object or instance that we have declared. Same here for like book equal the class of the book here. And after that, we put a dot, same as the attribute we created. But the difference here, so by adding here the method name, we also add two parentheses and arguments. So the method, which is attached to the class, will be behaving same as the function, but this one will have the ability to connect directly with the object. So let's have an example to understand what's going on directly. So we are going to start by creating a very simple method. So this first method will help us because we do have authors here in a list. And let's say we would like to have them in a string, something much easier. So what we can create here, let's create, so same, declared same as a function. And we add here, so let's put authors, let's add here like authors, but we add str. We would like to get them as a string. And the first argument for a method connected to the class have to be self. Self is not the specific word. You can use whatever different word, but when it's attached to a class, the first argument that here is commonly agreed for the Python to be self is the one referring to the object itself. So let's put here return, and what we are going to put is here this kind of comma, and we are going to put a join here, and what we are going to join is self dot here the authors. Okay, one of the problems that we do have here is that this attribute of the class is not already declared within the class, and this is what we are going to do later on. But we will see how the object now will behave as we do have this one. So let's save like this, and let's try to put something like print. Let's print the book one here, and I already have my method. So the system, the Visual Studio is already helping me and showing me this method. So by doing this, by doing authors str and putting like this, so you can see that this has been accepted. And let me save. So let's go and run it in Python to see what is going to happen. So there is a problem here. There is no attribute authors. Of course, I need to copy this one just to not make the mistake and just paste it here. It's just a typo. So let's clear the console and run it again. So here I do have not anymore a list, but thanks to this method, which just got inside the data of my object. So this self is really going back to my object itself. And here it goes to self.authors with this one and just make a string from it using the join function. And you can see here, this also join is a kind of a method of the string type or the string object. Okay, so we do have this one like this one. So if I do also the same thing for the book 2, so you guess it, the book 2 or the method will go inside the book 2, and there is only one person here. So let's try and run it again. So we do have only the Stephen Covey, and we do have only this, like the method just went to the data inside the data of the object and just transformed it and returned a function. So here there is no change in this data, just returning something, and this is a behavior of function. So we can attach to the class as a code a function that can be used directly by the object, and this is extremely helpful to do some stuff and to simplify a lot of code. Another thing that the method can do is besides returning some stuff. So this is the one that will be returning some stuff. Here we can also initiate some object attribute. So for example, if I put this one, add the favorite like this, and we just add self. Okay, so what we are going to put here is adding self dot favorite is favorite, and that will be equal to true. Okay, so now let's take a look on what's going on. So let's here comment these 2 lines and go to the book one and put is favorite. So we will have this one, and then if we go and print it, so just no, not is favorite because we don't have it yet, but we go to add favorite like this, and then print book one and check if it's is favorite. So is, just a moment to not make a copy. So print book one and take this one is favorite like this, and let's see what will happen. So by doing so and by running the code, let me clean the console and running this one. So is favorite is initiated and within the object itself. But if I print the book 2, which has not been initiated for the is favorite, which is not now initiated, so if I copy this one and try to do it here, I will generate a mistake or an error. So by doing here, book object has no attribute is favorite. So just by this method, we could add a new attribute. This is not the best way of doing this, but it's just to see that we can add attribute by the method itself. Okay, and last part, let's say for these books, like for book one, let's add book one. I do say there is we can add another attribute, we call it rating, and that will be a 5 here. And for the book2 here, we add the same rating. Okay, oh sorry, sometimes yeah, the VS Code is a little bit like have a lot of want to work further. So both of them have an initial rating of 5. So let's create a method that will change this rate, and that will be a rate that will decrease or increase. So what we can put here is improve rate, for example, and that will be a self here, just a self, and after that will be self, and you see this, you can already understand what I'm going to do. Will be going to a minimum, for example, by improving between a 10, which will be the maximum rating, or self dot rating plus 1. And on the other hand, if we would like to decrease the rating, so here and here I will maybe downgrade, and that will be a maximum between a 0 and the rating -1. So if we go here and we do have our rating, so let's remove all this one because we don't need it anymore. So if we print our book here, so book1 dot rating, and also we print the book2 dot rating, then after that we do a downgrade, so the book1 will be here. We can add the method here to improve rate, and the book2 we go to downgrade rate. And if we check again by printing again and take a look what's going on, so let's clean here and run it in the console, so we can see that first of all my book1 rating was initially at 5, same for the book2. But after that, by applying this method inside, by using the self that we added here, that has been impacted. So for the first one, we improved the rate, so it became a +1 and the rating becomes 6. However, in the second one, as we downgraded the book rating, we got 4 here, and then the book2 or the second object had the attribute value has changed. And that's how the methods are really helpful. So those are very simple examples, but this will help a lot to create more complicated function that will act directly on the object or the instance of the class. So now that we have seen the normal methods, it's very important to start looking into the special methods, call it sometimes Dender or Magic, and that will be in the next video. And this time we are going to focus on the Dender or the Magic method. It's a special method, and today we are going to specially working on one method, which is the init method. So let's start a little bit with the Dender or the Magic method shape. So usually it's 2 underscore, the name of the method, and then another 2 underscores. So and those methods are a predefined method coming from the object method. So they are special one that already predefined. But you still can redefine them, and we will see it in this video and also in the next video. So let's go today and understand this Dender init method. So as you can see here, declaring in the method is exactly same as the other one. So let's go. It's usually immediately after the class variable, and we come here and we put def as usual and init like this. So the computer already recognizes it because it's a standard method. And what we put here, let's start with a self, and then let's go and put a pass. So this method, the init, is kind of the object constructor this is a special one, and let's try now, instead of doing the same thing here for initializing the object and then giving the attributes one after the other, what we can do is we can put here, after self, we put title, and after that authors, like this. And we have seen also, we added here the rating, okay, rating. And as we have seen in the previous episodes, we can here put self dot authors, title. Let's start with title is equal to title. And after that, self dot authors, like this, will be equal to the variable authors. And we will see later on how this will be working. And finally, self dot rating will be equal to rating, like this. And let's also add, yeah, I think that's enough for the moment. So now let's save. And if we run this one, look what happens. So if I go and in the command line and go for the Python and then try to run the 3Shift, I immediately have an error and saying that the init is missing 3 required additional argument, title, authors, and rating. And this is happening in the line 38 here. So something become wrong with my initialization of the object or the instance. So now what we can put immediately, so we can put this one directly here. So by adding this one here, so let's add this one here. And after that, also put the name of the authors here, and finally add the rating. Let's put 4 for this time, and let's delete this. And also we add for the book 2, the 7 habit book, and we add this one here, and the rating, let's put also 4, same for the start. We can delete all this one now, and we are good. So let's save here, and also let's comment all this one like this, just to see that the code is now working. So let's go here, save here, and clear the console and run it again. So you can see now the program is running without any issue. So let's print some of the instances and see how this initialize. So if we go for authors, for example, like this, and we check also for the book 2, and we can check not the authors but the title, and yeah, you can see that the VS Code now is automatically proposing this attribute because this attribute has been declared in the class, and which is extremely helpful here to quickly write and type the code. So let's save and run it. So we do have everything here working properly. And finally, if I try to check this one again and I run my code, you can see that the code is working properly. So what this init, the dunder init method is doing is just initializing or constructing our first instance by putting everything here. So it makes things easier and we don't need to repeat ourselves. So that was the dunder method, which is for the init, which is a constructor and really a special case in the special methods. And in the next video, we will take a look on more other methods, special methods, and we see how we can use them to enjoy more working with an object. And today we are going to focus on the dunder or the magic method and take a look to all these magic methods that already exist within the class or the object itself. So as we have seen in the previous tutorial, that we do have the dunder init method. And if you would like to have the list of all these methods, we can go, let's go here. So we do have our initiated instances, so we can use the dir method. So if I go print and I put my book one like this and add this dender dear method like this. So this already exists, and as you can see, it's called as a method itself. So let me save here and let me run the Python code for in the console to see what would be the result. And if we run it here, you can see that this dia method generates the list of all the attributes regarding to the object or the instance itself. So we do have the title, author, rating, and then we do have a certain dender module. After that, paper-based language, the init, the author, and favorite. All of these ones have been created through our code, but there's a lot of other one that we already comes with the class from Python. So we also took a look now to the dir method, which is here. And let's take a look to other one. So you can go to the Python documentation and check for the object one by one, but let's have some example to understand what's going on. So let's here comment this one. And let's go back to printing the object or the instance itself. So if I print just book one, so let's clear the console again and run it. So I do have an object to a certain memory location. That doesn't talk a lot to us, and it's very hard to understand the meaning of the variable. Instead of that, if we would like to change this one, there's a special method that we have seen that can change this, and that's the dender str method that we need to declare within the book so we can change the behavior of the method itself. So if we define here and go for the str, so it's almost written there, and what we can do for when we would like to see the string of our class, we have to return like this. Let's put self like this, self dot title like this one plus, and we add some space and include, or let's say here by like this, and we add the self, and we can use not the authors because authors is already a list. So what we can get, we can use one of the method that we created, authors str, like this one. And you can see by having this combination, so if we save and we run again the code in the console, we do have introduction to the view by view and a bunch of people. That's really good. So this special method has changed how we see the object when it's printed. And there's a lot of other methods, those special methods that will help to debug or to have some shortcuts to some helpful activities. Let's take a look to the last one that I really enjoy, which is the dict method. And this method is giving you all the attributes of your object. And this is very useful if you don't know exactly what is inside the object. So let's go to print book, and then we add the dender dict, and that's a dictionary. However, for this method, at the opposite of the other one where we need the parentheses here, we don't need to add parentheses at the end. So let's save and clear now and run again. So what we do have here, it's a dictionary having all the attribute name and their value. So that's really helpful if we need to move data from a place to another and we need to change the format. This is extremely helpful. So we have seen now, by using the standard method, we could initialize our class or our object, changing how we read the object, and also have an idea by getting the list of all the attributes and the methods, and finally converting our object or getting all the attributes of our object in a dictionary. There's a lot of other Thunder methods that are really interesting. I would really recommend and advise you to take a look at them. But if you do have a question, I'll be happy to answer to them, and please post them in the comment area. I'll be happy to get back. Today we are going to focus on the static method. So we have been looking at the normal methods, the special method, and now this is a different type of methods. Those type, and the static and the next one that we will see, are always preceded by a decorator. A decorator is the @ mark and how to describe the method that will be. And each time a method or a function is preceded by the decorator, the behavior of the function changes. And in our static method, as soon as we add this decorator, the method doesn't need anymore the self argument. And this @ mark is a function decorator. So let's go to our example here, that the class that we start building, and let's add a method. So at the same way, what we are going to do before declaring the method by using the def, we add the @ mark and add the static. So as soon we write it, this is a predefined decorator, and what we can do, put a def, and this one check, let's call it is expensive, for example, and we don't need any more the self. So what we add here is a normal argument. So let's say price, and we are checking if the price is expensive or not. So if price, let's say, is greater, just a moment, price greater than 10, maybe 10 US dollar, then it's true. We return a true, like this, else it's false. Okay, and that's all. So that's the method, the static method that we do have right now. So it's a method that is not really connected with all the attributes and the of the object itself, but sometimes we need to have with us. So let's check this one here and go, let's print for book 1, for example, and check is expensive. Just a moment. Is expensive, like this, and we put for like 12, like this, and after that we print also for the second instance that we do have, the book 2, which maybe is $8. So let's save and go to the Python, run the 005 OP program, and we do have an answer on that. So we didn't need for the static method to add the self. This is sometimes useful when we need to have a function that is not really connected with our object, but we still need some certain computation outside of the whole instance that we do have. That's all for this one. It's a simple one, but that we should know because it's a core thing for the object. And the next one, we are going also to take a look on the decorator, but not a static method, but it will be a class method, and it has a little bit more importance than this one. And so let's see it together. And we are going to focus this time on the class method. So same as we have seen in the static method, to declare a class method, we need to that it would be preceded by a decorator with the @ mark class method. And at the opposite of a normal method where we are going to use a self and other argument, we need to use CLS or a class for instead of the self. So that's what would help to understand this is the class method. And we need a class method if we would like to change a class level variable or the method that we are using within the class. For example, we do have here a class variable for the language to Japanese. And if we want to change it, we will see how we use a class method to make it. So let's start here with a simple example with the initialized book here. So we do have a book 1 and book 2. And you can see that there is no language in our init function here. So we do have title, author, description, and page count. So let's go here and print the book 1 here, .language, to see what happened in the book language here. And also let's print the book 2 like this. And we should expect to have the Japanese language for both of them. Python, and then we put 056 here. So run it, and we do have Japanese. However, Now let's create a class method to change this one for all of the classes that will be created, all the instances that will be created. So if I create here the class method like this and declaring it as simple as, let's say, change language or something like this, and as an input we will have a CLS and the language that we would like to change. So let's go here, and will be as simple as it will be returning or putting CLS dot, and we already have the language one, equal to lang. Okay, so if we go back here again and we put book, and we go like this, and we put the change language class method, and we put, for example, English, and we save, and we rerun again, we can see that our instances are initialized with the English language. So this class method changes a class variable that will impact all the future initialization. So that's one interesting usage of the class. Another important usage that I find really interesting is updating or for the initialization. So what we do have here is that here we do have this input. So if we would like to initialize, is putting each one of the input here one by one. But sometimes we can have a flow of data coming with a special format. Let's say we do have each time a dictionary coming at us with kind of this data. So we do have a book info coming somewhere, and we will see a good example later on with a title, author, description, and page count. And we would like to incorporate this one. So we may try to put like this one. So we go a book 3, for example, and that will be equal. Let's bring this book here, like this one. And we have to change each one of them. So we need to put here the real life as a title, the author, and then is the wheel. Okay, interesting. So we change this one as only the wheel, and then it's a nice book as a description, and the number of pages is 334. So that's, and if we do have a lot of other books, what we need to do is maybe we need to add this book info as a dictionary, and this quite not optimized and going against the dry way of doing, do not repeat ourselves. So that's not a good way of doing that. On the other hand, what we can do is come in here and create a new class method. So let's go here and have the decorator class method and define here what we call, let's say, create a book, like this. So create book, and that will be getting the class and also the data that we are receiving. And we know the format. So what we are going to do is putting a title like this. Title will be equal to title, the data, the dictionary, so the data, and here we put the title like this. So we will copy all of them and quickly generate the code. So for this, and let's take, so this is our dictionary. So we do have a title and then the author. Quickly here, the author, sorry, would take a little bit of time, but you see, but we will be doing this only once, so quite worth it. Creating the description is coming from the description, and finally the page count coming for the page count. Okay, so this is just to extract the data, and finally what we are going to return, this is where it's very interesting. So we go CLS, or our class itself, and we are going to put title like this, just a moment, title, and then after that we put the author, description, and finally the page count. So let's copy this one, this final one. And this what happen is this will call Okay, let's put this one here. This will call like a book and putting all the data together. So let's take a look here. So go back to this one, and instead of having book, what we are going to do is we are going to get the method create a book, and we just insert the dictionary. Okay, and then what we can do, we can print here the book dot, and we put a dictionary method just to see what's happening with the book itself. Okay, this is a book 3 actually. Okay, so let's save and clean our console, run it again, and to see what's happening. So we do have this one coming from the previous discussion, but let's see what's happening now. This is printing my object as a dictionary, and you can see that I do have all the data that I needed inserted in one shot. So we don't need to spend a lot of code to do that because my class method is already doing all the job. Okay, so this is kind of an example, but what we are going to do in the next episode is to show when we are getting real data API from the internet, how we can put the whole thing inside the class or the object by using this kind of class method. And during the last episode, we have been looking at the class methods and build a small application for it. But for this part 2, we are going to have a real life example where we are going to take the API data from the internet and insert it in our object. So for this tutorial, we are going to use the help of the URL lib request library and also the JSON library, where both of them are native Python libraries. And we are going to discover also the data from the Google API book, and we will learn how to read it and how to put it in an object. So let's start by just reading this link. So let's start with the HTTPS, and then we have the Google API book v1 volume, and then we have the Q in title. So we are going to look for the title. And what you see here, the 7 and then the percentage sign and 20, this can be translated from research perspective as the space habit. And after that, we do have the language restrict to only English and maximum result to 40. So this is the link that we are going to study. So let's copy here the link and go to the Mozilla Firefox and start seeing what would be the result. So let's copy here the link, save it. And we do have, so the raw data should be like this one. It's a long, big, gibberish data that is hard to understand. And Mozilla offer the way to have an organized JSON structure here. So what we can see here, and that's to help you, is we receive a kind of a Python dictionary. So we do have kind, total items, and items. And this is helpful later on to study the data. So what we see here is we do have a dictionary, and inside of the dictionary, the items here is a list. So if we open here, we do have a list with 40 elements starting from 0 to 39. And inside each one of the element, we do have another dictionary. So if I open here, we do have here a dictionary that shows the kind, ID, e-tag, self-link, and volume info. So if we go to volume info here, we can find, which is a dictionary too, the title. We can have also the authors, which is a list, convenient because we do have the same. And also here the publisher, the description, and some other things like the language. And we may see also the number of pages. I think there is a page count. Yeah, here the page count. So what we are going to do now, based on what we are seeing here, we are going to extract the data and to input the JSON data inside our object. So let's first start by getting the data. And what we can do, so we do have our the book class that we created through the whole tutorial ready for us. So you should be familiar with it. And then let's start first of all by import the URL lib library. So URL lib.request. That's what we need to get. And also let's import the JSON library. Okay, fantastic. So first of all, let's make a research based on the book name itself to have a more flexible program. So let's take the book name and equal the program will ask provide a book name or provide a book title. So provide a book. No, this is string, sorry. And here provide a book title. Okay, so the user will be providing a book title, and based on that we need to change a little bit the book title. So let's call it URL title like this, and this will be equal to the book name here, and we are going to replace whatever the space that we do have here, whatever the space that we do have, by the percentage sign and 20, and that is especially for the research for the Google API. So here 20, and after that we are going to make the URL that we do have. So URL is equal, and we can copy this one exactly same as this one, and we are going to make a small change on it. So let's put it as a string like here, and let's put the F so we can insert elements. And instead of having this one, the 7 habit here, what we are going to put, not the 7 habit, but the URL title. So we are going to input the URL title here. Let's save this one, and then after that what we can go is go to data. So we are going to have a response. So first we get the response where we are going to use the URL lib, this one, the URL lib.request, and after that we are going to take the URL open and send our URL that we just created. So by taking the response, we know that it's a JSON response that we are going to get, and we need to translate it to the Python language. So let's have a new variable that we call data, and this variable will be using the JSON library that we got, and we are going to load the response that we got from the Google API, and we are going to read it. So we need to read it, but not only read the response, we need to have a decode so we can have the same format as the Python format. So let's print the data to see how is the result up to now. So let's save and see if our program is working properly up to now. So let's go to the console, Python 007, and run this one. Let's say the 7 habits. Okay, and by running now we do have an error. So this str have no, okay, I think the mistake is JSON loads, not, yeah. So let's clean again, run it again, a title 7 habits, and run it, and we do have all the API that we wanted to download. So it's a huge, big gibberish of data that we see here. It's quite very hard to read, and we would like to insert some of this data in our objects. So let's make this one small again, and let's comment this part. So now what we can do, as we have said, we do have in the data, let's go back again to the Mozilla. So the first response that we get here is a dictionary, and what we would like to have within this dictionary, as you can see, item is the list, actually. So let's take a look at the same time so you can understand how we can break down this very complicated API. So what we need to go for, and for, let's say, item in data, and this is the initial data we are getting, data, and of the dictionary here, data items, like this. And for this one, what we can do is getting in my book here, so we do have the data here, it will be exactly the same. So inside it, we can put my book, like this one, and equal to a book. So what we need to see here inside of data, in the 0, for example, we need to see inside of it, so let's make this one bigger a little bit, volume data. So this is inside it, we do have authors, description, page count. So we can have book and create a book, and is the item, but we inside the item itself, inside the item that we do have, we need to see the first one, which is the volume info. So it's also a dictionary where we would like to deep dive in the volume info. So volume info. Okay, so this should be right. So let's go a little bit like this. So we are going to create, and to have at least an idea, let's print each time my book. Let's create my book, and we can see the dictionary that is generated. So we can use the dunder bar of a dictionary. Okay, and to make it more helpful, sometimes this data is not matching. So let's make a try here and accept. We can put E as exception. Okay, and we put here print E. Sorry, it's exception as E. Like this. Sorry. And print E, just in case. Sometimes E, there is some exceptions. So let's save this one and make it bigger to see what would be the result. So let's clean all this, run this one again, a title, we do have the 7 habit, and now it's running. So you can see that we do have libraries that are generated, or this is still very complicated, but let's create. So we do have our book here, and we do have the str. So we do have this str1. So let's just print my book. So we will have just my book like this. So that will show us the name of the book, and also the name of the book and the authors. So let's clean again and go to the console, make CLS and run it again, and give the 7 habit, and that should generate. Here we do have a long list of books. They are different books, but all of them have the same name and also by the same author. But sometimes there's a Shin Covey supporting Stephen Covey. Okay, maybe brothers together. And you can see here description, page count. This is generated by the exception. So sometimes the description doesn't exist. So instead of crashing my program, what I'm putting here is an except, and this one generating here that there is a problem, this description is missing. And you can see here, you can see all the data that is reviewed one by one. And a real example how we could get huge volume of data from an internet API and putting the whole thing in our object. So that can make a lot of a bit of sense, but we will have another example, a bigger example with an overhaul application at the end of the whole OOP tutorial where this will make more sense. So thank you a lot for today. Really appreciate you stayed at the end of the video to see with us, and in the next video we will see the inheritance in the OOP. And today we are going to focus on the class inheritance. So in a nutshell, or in a simple way to say it, class inheritance is getting a free code from a parent class. in this example, we do have the class book that we worked on in the previous tutorial. So there is a lot of method and a constructor that we have built together, and we are going to pass all this Greek code for free to another classes. And why we need this class inheritance is when there is a need of topic diversity, which means like we do have here the class book, but book can be a very general term. So from book perspective, there's essays, there is thesis, there is magazines. Each one of them have are connected to be considered a book, but they have a different interpretation or a different meaning. And also at the same time, we would like to limit the code bulkiness. So what we're saying by this is we don't want to put all the code in one class. That would become a very difficult to manage, very difficult to handle class. So we will diversify a little bit on subclasses. And this is what we are going to see together today. So let's start by creating a subclass. And to create a subclass is quite easy and straightforward. It starts with a class. And after that, let's create a kind of subclass or subtype of a book. We call it an essay. And to inherit, we add a parenthesis and we just add the book here. And we just make a pass. That will be our first subclass. After that, let's create another subclass, which will be, we call it a thesis class. So can be considered as a book, depending on the person. And then also will inherit the book itself. And we are going to make a pass. So now let's initialize some object from those subclasses. So let's take the essay. So we put ESS underbar 1, and this one it will be equal to essay. So as soon as we create the essay and we open the parentheses, we see that VS Code is already helping us and saying how the constructor is made, and this is exactly the constructor of the book class. So we do have the title, the author, the description, and the page count. So let's quickly write something here. So let's say a tale of Will as the name of the book, and then for the author, it would be, so this is should be a list as we considered at the beginning. So this one, let's say someone, we don't know who, and after that for the description, we call it a nice story. And finally, the page count in essay would have around 213 pages, but it depends where you are. And after that, for the thesis, let's create one instance or an object. Let's call equal here, and we put it thesis. So that's generated. And again, VS1 is showing us that the constructor is exactly the same. So for the thesis, how to count, maybe it will change. And then it is written, let's say the wheel this time. And after that, for the description is maybe we count in the wrong way. I'm sure if it's in good English or not. And there is 50 pages explaining that we are not counting in the right way. So if we do a print for the essay and also a print for the thesis objects and save. So let's save this, go to the top here, go to the console, run Python, and then 008, run. So we do have a title of Will by someone and how to count by Will. And this one, I think it's a tile. No, not a tile. It's a strange name. Let's say a tale of Will. Okay. So we do have this one now generated. But if you would like to take a look and to understand the inheritance, there is a very helpful function to understand from where the object is getting all the attributes and also the methods. So you can do a print and do help and then the name of the object. So let's put the essay1. So let's clear here and make it a little bit bigger to see better what will be the result. So we can see here method resolution order. So this is coming from essay and then book and then built-in object. And this is where comes all the special methods, and you can go a little by little by pushing enter, and you can see how this is written. So you see the constructor here, how it's working, and here this str, which does return what kind of a special function are generated, and you can see all the classes and all how the method are built here. So you can see the static method, the description. So it's quite an interesting function to see how this object is inheriting from the essay, and after that from the book, and then at the end it inherits from the built-in object itself. Okay, so that was the initial part to see, but now let's leave this one. So to leave this one, you just click on the Q letter, so you can leave this list of descriptions. So now let's go back again and give more value to these subclasses. So let's say we would like to have a different constructor at the init level. So here at the init level, we do have the self, the title, the author, description. But from thesis or essay perspective, we would like to see the genre and the style. So to do so, and to not repeat ourselves again and again, what we can do, so we need to redefine again the init function. Let's go to the init function, but you can see here, so we do have all this one, but automatically the VS Code has added this super function and then init. And this means the super function will be going to the book. So it's kind of, we don't need to repeat ourselves and repeat the whole thing regarding the already updated data, but we add those ones. So what if we want to add further arguments here? For example, I'd like to add genre and also style, like this. And we need to put here, then here self, use the self dot genre here equal genre, and also self dot style equals style. Okay, so now let's try to run again the code. So we change the constructor and let's see what happened. Let's also comment this one and let's see what happened with this new code. So let's save, go back here, and we do have an error. And if we read the error here, so in the essay object declaration, they're saying missing two required positional argument, genre and style. So in the essay now, we got all the code to input these four first argument, but we still need to add, for example, for the genre, let's say science fiction, let's put sci-fi, just like this. And for the style, let's say the modern style. Okay, so if we save here and we run again, we should have no issue in the declaration. And this is what we need for this one. And same if we would like to change also one of the method that we do have here. So let's say for the str method, let's copy it. And we would like to add a little bit more details or change a little bit how this str is behaving. For example, we would like to put essay just to show that this is an essay, like this. And we add here essay for title and add here 2 dots title. So this will, and if we change both of them, so let's see it again and to see how this one has impacted and changed the essay here. So let's go here, rerun again, and we can see essay, A Tale of a Wheel by someone. And however, the thesis didn't really change. This is because we didn't really overwritten what is coming from the book class. So let's go a little bit and change the thesis in the same way as we have done for the essay. So what we need to do, we can just copy this one, or let's do it again. So it's just, we just go for init and you will see that VS Code is automatically adding this. You will have the super function that will construct your object for same as the book, and you can add other argument. So for the thesis, for example, let's add the field and also university. Some people find that's important. So, and here we go, and we add self dot field equal field, and the other one, self dot university equal university. Okay, so we come here and we need to add the field and university. Let's say for the field it will be history, and the university will be, let's use MIT. Let's be fancy. Okay, and we can also change the str. We can add whatever we want as a method. So here, for example, for the str, and this is becoming a thesis, for example, we add here the thesis, and so this is a self title by, and we can add here at, because maybe it's important, at, and we add the university. So let's put it like this one, and plus self dot university. Okay, so let's save it and run. So clean the console and run it again to see. So we do have an essay, A Tale of a Wheel by someone, and thesis, how to count by wheel at MIT. So you can see we can create two different subclasses, but we are getting a lot of code coming from the original one. That's very helpful, and that can be used in many ways when you do have a lot of good classes that have been created and you just want to pass it and to use this code in a more specific way. So you can add here other different methods that will help you to deal with that subject. So to make it more practical, in the next few episodes, we are going to use this inheritance to build a small web server application that will help us to make a research for a book title when we have a title for a book and we get all the titles that are related. So stay tuned for the next episode to get a more practical example. We are going to make a practical example, and this practical example is creating a web server application using Python native libraries. So by the end of this three-part tutorial, you'll be able to create a local server by yourself and will be at the local host, and it will be an application that will hand the book hunters or book name hunters. And after that, you'll be able to put the name. For example, let's put the name Harry Potter, and this will generate the list of the books of Harry Potter that are available through a Google API. You will be able to put whatever the name and you will get it. And also this application will be managing the exception, for example, if you click to nothing. So if you are interested to understand how the object-oriented programming works and through a kind of native library of Python, stay tuned and follow this tutorial. As we are going to create a web application using Python, let's have one step back and try to have a quick recap regarding the computer network. So let's take a look at this picture of a network. So it's a bunch of computers connected together. On the other hand, a computer is considered a part of the network if it has a unique reachable IP. And if this is still a little bit complicated for you, you can imagine the network as a big city. And each one of those computers is a building within that city that can be reached with a kind of a post system. And to have a better picture of how this is all working, each of the building will have a lot of rooms. Those rooms are really what connect all the buildings together. So if there is a person in a building in a room, will send a letter to another person in a room in a different building. And from network perspective, those rooms are ports. So within the computer, you do have the IP address, but also the port. And this kind of room or port are called active, is when you do have someone there listening at the door and replying to messages coming from a different other building. And from network perspective, this is called, when you do have a person listening at the port or a program, it's called an application for a server. And the server is the connected computer to the network. Then let's go to more specific picture, which is the web application server. So the web application uses the HTTP protocol. Not only that, there's also TCP and UDP to secure the communication between two computers, a server and the client. And here, as you can see in the picture, usually the client is a browser and the server is a bunch of computers. So what happens after that is the client initiate or start the communication by sending a request for data or information. And this is what we will see later on within our code. So the server got that request, and also that request will contain the IP address and the port. And the server will have someone listening at that port, and then what we'll do, it will send a response as a feedback to that request. So the server will be listening to a certain port, and this is what we will see immediately after this in the code, and will send a response to the browser, which will display that data. So that was a quick summary of how the web application works, and now let's jump immediately to the code. Okay, let's finally do some code. So to start with, we are going to use the HTTP server library, which is a native Python library. And within that library, we are going to use two classes, the base HTTP request handler and the HTTP server. So let's take a quick look on this library in the Python detail library. And here it says, and the warning, which is very important, do not use this for production. It means you don't go to a client and you tell them, okay, I will develop for you a server and using only this library. But this is really good library to understand natively what's going on within Python. You can use later on Django or Flask, but this one will help you to understand what's really going inside those big frameworks. So let's take a look again. So we do have here the HTTP server and the handler. So the HTTP server is a class, and this is what we have seen. And this class, we need to receive a server address. So as we said, which address we are going to use, and also another request handler class. And here, this class, this HTTP base HTTP request handler, is a handler class. So that's why we are going to use both of these two guys. And also, so what's happening is the HTTP server is the guy listening to the port itself, what we have seen in the previous presentation, where the base HTTP request handler is the guy that proceed or work the request. So imagine it's a room with two guys. The first one is listening if there is a request, and as soon as there is a request, it gives to this HTTP request handler. So this guy will look and understand what's going on, and then pass it again to the HTTP server, which will use it to send it back to the client. Okay, so if we take a quick look here, how we declare them. So this is a way of declaring them. So it's a kind of a function that's called run. And here that says the server class is the HTTP server and the handler class is the base HTTP request handler. So we give the server address. Here is they put nothing, and we will later on look how we can put something different. And the port is 8000. Finally, we declare an object using this class, the server class that we are seeing, which is here and which is equal to HTTP server, which will receive this tuple of something empty and 8000, and the handler class. Our handler class here is the base HTTP address. And finally, we run the HTTP server forever. So this is a picture or a very simple way to run it. We're going to do almost the same thing, and let's take a look how we can start. So we can go here and initiate the object. So we have web server, we call it web server, and we are going to use the HTTP server here. This is the class, and we are going to add a tuple. The first tuple, as you said, and if we look back again here, it will be the server address, and we are going to use the host name and the server port 8080. So let's quickly go there. So, and put here the host name here, which will be the local host or the local host of the computer. And we are going to add here the server port. So let's go here and put server port like this. So after that, this HTTP address will need a handler. And we're not going to use this one immediately. We need to customize a little bit this one. And as we are going to create a book application, let's create a class. We call it my book server, for example, my book server like this one. And that will inherit from the base HTTP request handler. So let's put a pass here. So let's add this one and create a pass. So here we can add it as my book server. Okay, so it's already inheriting everything, so I can pass it here. After that, just for sake to be sure to have the right address, let's print here and add this string. So server started, just to notify that everything is going well. Server started. And we can add the address, so the HTTP, because we are going to use the HTTP protocol. And after that, let's add the host name, so which is here our local host, but let's put it in this way so we can easily access it later on. And after that, we can put the server port here, server port. Okay, so this will be running our address, so our server. And after that, so this will be printing the address that we'll be using within our browser to connect to our server. So then let's make it a try so we don't have any issues. And as they used here, they say server forever. Okay, so let's go here and put our web server, and we add here server forever. So this is a method of this class this class of this object to run the server forever as a continuous loop. We need to add an exception, so let's put an except here, and we put the keyboard interrupt. So if we make an interrupt, we don't have too much messy console, and we add a pass here. Finally, if this is interrupted, we need to put the web server. We have to put this web server and we close it. So server here, and we call server close. So this will close the server, and just to print the server has been stopped. Server stopped. We're still a bit far away because we don't have a lot of things, but let's just run this one and see what will happen. So let's try Python, and then we go to run this one, and if we run it, it say host name is not defined. So let's check what kind of host name here, and I guess I messed up a little bit here. Let's save, clean our console, run it again, and we do have our server started. So let's copy this one, this address, and we go here to see how things works. Okay, so we do have an error response because we don't have a handler. We didn't put anything in our handler. So we need to have a get method. So if you read here, unsupported method get. So we need to add our get method, which is already within our base HTTP handler and which the server will be looking for. So let's start by creating this get method. So let's go here and create it's a predefined, let's go here. So we go to def and then the do, and we add the get method like this. it will be receiving only self for the moment. We don't need to make a lot of complicated stuff. So let's go here. And then let's try, oh, this one is not really correct. And so what we need to do as a response to a request, first of all, we need to add what they call a header, just to say that everything is okay. And we need to put a response first. So self here and adding send response. So sending response is just saying to the browser that all is good. We are hearing you. We are listening to you. And also let's add also self, and all this self data that you see, this kind of send response is a predefined method within the base HTTP handler. So let's go here and here for send header. So after sending the response, we need to send the header. Send, and here it's already predefined, and we need to send. This is a kind of standard application for the web, so we put content type like this, and after that we are going to add the text HTML. We are saying that we are going to send only text HTML, and this, I hope I am correct on this one. And finally we need to end the header, so self like this, and end headers, and what we can just close this one. By this one, we are sending a response saying, okay, we are receiving the request, and after that, we are going to send the header saying we are going to have the content type as a text HTML. Okay, so let's save here and see what will going to happen. So let's close the server. So by Control-C, so the server has stopped. So I clicked Control-C, and now rerun the server again. So let's clean it and rerun the server again. So if I rerun it, I have nothing, which is normal, but I don't have the error message. And this is because I just sent the header. So let's go here and take a look to the inspect. And if I go to my console, so this is really empty. And if I go to the network, so there's nothing here for the console. This is empty. Yeah, everything is empty because I'm not sending nothing at this moment. Just take a look. Everything is still empty. So let's close it. And now, after that, we will add some data that will change this format. So let's close the server again. Control-C, we close the one. So I added on the top here a certain CSS and HTML. So this is the code that we don't need to spend time just copying and writing, but this is a very simple HTML format that will show us the application or the HTML file that we are going to send. And as you can see, there is an F and a CSS. So the style of the is added here within the CSS. So if you'd like to play with it and customize it, all the code is available on GitHub, so feel free to play with it. So to send this code, to add all this code, you just have to write self and W or write file. For this one, write file, and what you can see add on this one is another write. Sorry, this is not what this one, write file, and after that you add a write here, and even within the write itself, you still need to send the data by using a byte here. So bytes, and after bytes, you can put the HTML. And finally, this HTML will need to have the format to the UTF-8. Okay, so let's clean the console again and rerun it. Okay, all is good. So let's refresh here, and you can see I do have my HTML now and also the formatting of my CSS. So let's inspect quickly to see what's going on here. So let's make this one a little bit smaller. So you can see I do have a small container here, and within this container, this is here where you should see the summary, and we do have two other items that are not generated because I didn't make my research. Okay, so now just what happened is we created the handling the request of get. And this is the basic request coming from the browser. So now when we get the request, when we have a browser sending to us, hey guys, do you have some data? So the first thing to do is to send this response with a header and then sending this HTML file. And let's improve a little bit our code, and by creating a def here, we can add another method that we can customize. We call it set response. Okay, so this is our own method that we create, and here this is self, and we can put here all this code. So we don't need, if we need to have to use a different thing later on, we can just add here self dot, and we can see the set response like this. Okay, this is just some optimization for us. So this is the get method that should be here. Okay, this is great. This is great. So now we do have a communication between the browser and the server, and you see how simple it can be. So, and the server is working, so it's listening to the browser, and all works well. And each time I'll be running, you can see the server saying that there is an HTTP communication and the response is 200. That's fantastic. So now let's go to the last step of this part, is sending the request or having some data coming from the browser requesting to the server something. And here we do have a form where we need to send the book name. But if I put something here, so let's say 7 habits, for example, I don't know what I'm keeping asking for, and I send, we do have an error code saying, hey guys, we don't have the post method working. And this is because we are sending a different request. So when we just initiate or starting with the web browser, we're just sending a GET request. And this is another type of request that we need to manage or to handle within our base HTTP handler, which is the POST request. So let's go here and create, same as the do GET, which is a predefined request, we are going to create a def here and a do POST. Okay, so as usual, as a normal method, we need to add the self, and then what we need to do initially is just to get the length of what we do have within that request. So the request will send us within the post some data, and we need to capture what the server asked for. So this data. So what we need to do here, just go here. First of all, take the content length. How long is my data? So let's take content length like this, GTH, if I hope I'm correct. And that's what we can do. We take the integer, and this is within the header. We can take self, and this is a predefined also data within the server itself, self headers, and we need to take from that dictionary here, we need to take the content length. And the content is the data coming from the form itself. Content length, let's take here. So this will say to us, we are the length of the data exactly. And after that, we are going to get the data itself. So form string here, and that will be equal to self.r file. And this is also something that is predefined. If we go back here to the HTTP server, you do have all this coming with the base request handler, all this free code coming from the inheritance. So all this data is automatically doing everything for us. So let's go back here. So our file, and we need to read here the content length. So if we go the content length, so this is what we need to get, because this is the length of the data that we need to read, and we need to add also the decode, because there is always a difference between how the browser looks and how the Python data is getting to the Python program itself. So we need to read using the format UTF-8. And finally, let's print the data to see the picture, what's coming to us. So we call form string this one. And finally, we need to give a reply to the user. So as of now, let's reply just get back send the self, and if we do self do get like this, we were just replying the normal HTML that we created in the previous one. So let's save, close our server, Control C, so the server has stopped, and rerun it again. Let's clean the console, go back twice, and run it. Okay, so we do have our server running. So let's refresh. So here we do have a refresh using a normal get, and then let's go here and see what's happening. So what we do have here, what we received is the B title, and if I go to the inspection here from the form itself, let me show you the form. Here, this is my form, and I have the ID as fname. So that's what we have received. So fname, and that's what is the data. So I put it 7 habits. So let's make it a little bit smaller here so you can see the response in real time. So let's say here STM32, for example, and we do have the data coming. So we are capturing the data, and this is all thanks to a base HTTP server handler and the inheritance to our code. So you have seen now, just by understanding the classes and the method, you can clearly and quickly understand what's going on in the program, even with a little bit complicated library. So this is the part 1 where we just understand how to get the data and send it back. And the next step, we will see a little bit more how to handle it to make it more visible and to get the data from the API perspective. So in the first part, we created a normal server that can get some request and send a response. So let's run quickly and see how this is working. So let's run it here. And if this is the server, that is the response we get. So if we save here, we have a resend. So last time we sent we created the form. So if I put 7 habits again, or whatever the book name, let's call STM32 tutorial, like this. I think I wrote tortilla, and I got this kind of text. So now what we are going to take is to get this data, convert it to a dictionary, and why we need to do that is to have a more readability or a better way to read this data, confirm that the data is okay, and then send it to the API. So let's start with the first step and changing from a string to a dictionary. So what we need to do then is to start by creating a static function that will change the text to a dictionary. And this is a little bit, can be a little bit overwhelming, but let me drive you within the creation of this method. Okay, so we have to use a static method because it's just a function doing something outside that it's not really connected with the server thing. And let's call it string to dict. Okay, so let's dev here string to dict like this. And that function will just need to get a string. Okay, perfect. So after that, or let's call it, sorry, not here, a form string, just to avoid a form string like this. And then let's start working with that. So first of all, what we need to get is to create the dictionary form that we will have will be equal, and just please keep up with me. So what we receive here is we do have B title is equal to STM32 plus tutorial. So the equal sign is the one that we can use to move from a string to a list. And we are going to create list based on that. And if you do have not only one element, but many elements in a form, that you will have then, each one of the element will be here and attached with the and sign. So better to have an overall example to split first using the and sign, and then split everything using the equal sign. And so that will be something like this. So we will have a dict, we would like to create dictionary of two lists. Well, let's call them X and Y. So it will be a tuple X and Y. But what we need to have for this two list is to strip them. So we have to strip this two list. Okay. And here also strip. And this is a normal function to create a dictionary. But we still have the issue here. They say X and Y, from where are they coming? So let's define the X and Y. So X and Y are the tuple, X and Y here, which are created, let's put for X and Y in, and we need to open again. So here where we are going to create our list. So it will be element like this, element like this in, so dot split. So we are splitting this element, which put here the equal. Let's go and create the equal sign here for this element. So the split, and go here, and we are going to define the element for element in the form string dot split like this, and using the and sign. Okay, so what will happen is, first of all, we are going to take this form string, and as I said, we may have the and if we have many inputs to make. That will be not only the B title, but we will have other one, and that's why I insisted to add this one here. So after that, we are going to split it. So we are going to create a list. We are going to create a list where each element of the list will be the one differentiated by the and. And after that, after creating this one, we will have another split of this element using equal. So that will be a list which is splitted by the element with the equal sign. And X will be taking all the left side, where the Y will be taking all the right sides. And then we will have these two lists, X and Y. One will be having the items, and the other one will have the values here. And this will generate a dictionary. And by the end of this method, we can just return the dictionary form that we do have. Okay, so let's go quickly and come here and try to see what would be the result. So we call it also dict form, and this will be equal self to dict to string. Where is it? We call it here string to dictionary. Okay, so we bring it here, string to dictionary, and we add the form here that we do have. So let's check the result by printing it and seeing if all is good with the code. Okay, let's save and stop the server, rerun it again. Okay, the server is running. So let's refresh here, resend, and you can see now what we do have. So the previous call was a string, but now you can see I do have a dictionary which is having the title or the B title here, and the value is in the place of the value, which is perfect. So now our data is much better to use and to play with. Okay, that's fantastic. So after that, what we need to do, so we do have the split. So let's move this one to a new method. Let's create a method which is not a static. That will be starting, this method will be starting to update this HTML. We're not going to do this within this session today, but will be the preparation step or the math before that. So let's create this method here. And we put def, and we called search book, for example. No, this one will be update for HTML. We are going to update HTML. And that will be receiving HTML. And this one will be using the self as its normal method, and also receiving the form dictionary, or the same, the dictionary form, for example, like this one. Okay, perfect. So let's go and start using this one. So first of all, what we need to get is the data, and the data from the API. So let's say equal, let's data, and data will be equal, we call it a search book. So self dot search book method. So we are going to create this one, search book. Let's make a B capital letter, book method. And we are going to pass here the dictionary form like this. And we are going to, as it's a dictionary, we need to get only the value of this one. So dictionary form of the B title. Okay. Okay, fantastic. So let's create this method. And this method will be just same as the one we have seen when we worked with the class method. So it will be a static method. So we can go here and create a static method to make the API call. So let's copy this one, search book, as a static method. So let's go here and static method, and then we define it like this. That will be receiving all the search word, for example, search word like this. And let's start. So for this one, same exactly as we have done in the previous code. So I will not spend time retaping the whole code together. So I will put it here and we will get back data. But yeah, as you can see here, there is book name.replace, and this is, I will change book name by search word. Yeah, it's actually a book name that we are looking for, so it makes more sense to call it a book name here. Okay, and for this one, the JSON and URL library. So I will go back on the top and import the URL lib.request and also import the JSON library so we can get the right format. Okay, so better now to make a small break and rerun the code again to be sure that the data that we are receiving is correct. So we should receive a lot of data coming from the research that we do. So let's print it here. And here we need to add the self.search. No, it's actually the update HTML. And we are going to pass the dictionary form. Okay, so let's put, I think we don't need this one anymore at all. And let's close the server and clean our console so we have a good view. So, and let's rerun it again. Okay, things are starting. So let's run this one from the beginning and search for a word, let's say Python, for example. And let's see what happens. So you can see that the API is working. We are receiving all the data we need, everything we need, and it's huge gibberish data. So I'm not going back to see how this API is created, so as we have seen it before. So, but now what we are going to do is to loop through all the list of books that we get and to use our book class to classify and get a special, create a special object and to see if everything is going well. So let's go here back. Oh, no, sorry, not here. Go back to our HTML update. And what we are going to do is to loop through, to go through the items in the data. Okay, so for item in, we go data here and we look for the items that will be coming inside the API. So for item in, just not for from, it's for item on this one. So what we are going to do on this one is we are going to try like this. We are going to try, and here we are going to take my book, and this is the object that we created through our tutorial, and try to put that item inside our object, and we are going to use the class method we have created previously. So let's try to do it now. So it will be book and dot. After that, we will have the create book class, and we are going to pass the item here. Okay, so to be 100% sure, we can print after that my book, just to see, because by printing my book, we already defined the special or the denda method here That's a moment. Oh, we don't have it. Oh, no, this is the str. We don't have a addenda method, so we can create quickly here addenda method. So def here, and we go the str here, and this is what we will be displaying if we would like to print the book. So what we can do is return, and we can add self.title, and by, let's say, plus here, put like this, and another plus by, oh sorry, should be the by here, like this, and we add self.authors, actually authors str, because we created this author str that will join the list of authors. Okay, so let's go here, print book, and for the except, we can put exception as E. So we will see what happens if there is an error, and usually there will be sometimes some book coming from the API which will not have some of the fields, okay? And we are going to print E. Perfect. So now what will happen is we are going to get all this API, pass the API data to an object, and we are going to filter only the data that we need, and we are going to print this object using this addenda method or special method that we have seen previously in the tutorial, and get a view of that object that will be created. So to see that, let's close the server, clean the console again, rerun the server, and let's take a look on how things will go. So we do have our server. Let's run it again, and let's go for Python, for example. Okay, so what we see here is we do have all the books. There is a list of books, and sometimes we do have here page count, and this is the error where they couldn't find the page count in the book, so we are going to skip. And after that, we have all the list of books that have the Python words and the person who made it, and that's working perfectly. So this is what we wanted to do this time within this part, to not make it too long. And in the next episode, what we are going to do is to create the HTML that will be added here using some other methods to move on with that. In the part one, we have created a class that connect and handle the request with the browser, which is my book server and also my web server. And in the part two, we got the data from the browser, from the form, and we made the request for the API to the Google API book, and we could put everything in the update HTML, where we have seen how we converted the API data to an object. So in the part three and the final part, what we need to do is from the book data, we need to get all this HTML and insert it here. So the first step that we need to do is using this my book here, or the object, to create the HTML. And actually I cheated a little bit. I have already added, because it will take a lot of time to just type this HTML, and I can explain it. So what we are going to do is creating a div here where we are going to insert the title, the page count, and also here the author str, and also the self description. But something here looks not correct. Okay, that looks legit. Okay, and after that, we are going to insert this HTML in our code. So first of all, let's quickly, instead of printing here my book only as the addenda method, we are going to put the HTML one. So let's put the book HTML and see what would happen. So let's run this code and see what will be the result. So Python, and then the number with, and let's run again here the browser. And let's make a research. Let's put STM32, for example. And if we run, so you can see here, we do have a div created for the summary pack. And after that, we do have the title and the page count, and also the author, which is perfect. So we do have a big list of HTML that has been created and ready to be inserted within the code. So about the code itself, or the HTML itself. So let's go here to the HTML and take another look. So we do have this book here. So let me close this one, make it smaller, so you can see where we need to target this code. So you see in the summary here, this is the part where we need to insert. So this is an empty one right now, and what we need to do is to insert our code between our generated HTML code between this two, like this div. And to do so, we are going to create a static method that will look for, in our basic HTML that we have created, look for this one, and after that insert all the data here. So let's go back, let's close this, and let's go and create this HTML, or the update HTML function. So it will be a function here that we call it a static method, and let's go here and make it as a static method. So because that will not, something is not connected probably with the server job, and we call it update HTML, for example, or update text, because it will be updating text. And what we need, so we do have originally initially the original text, and after that the insert location, or the text that we are targeting, so the where we need to insert. So let's say the target, for example, target insert text, and finally the text that we need to add. So let's call it the add on text. Okay, perfect. So first of all, let's see how this static method will be working. We need to get how long is this text is long. So we need, first of all, if we go to the HTML, we need to go here and check, because we are going to check for all this. So we need to check for all this. So we need to check where it is, and this is, we are going to use the font location, but we need to check how long it is, because we need to add it just after that. Okay, so let's go here back. So let's take the word length, for example, len, and that will be equal to just len of target text here. And after that, we will find the insert position. So the insert position will be equal, so the insert pos will be equal to the original text, find here, that will be an integer, and the target text. So we need to find this target text, and we include then the length of the word. So by using this one, the program will be looking for this place where this is starting, and will be adding the length here. So the insert position will be exactly here. After that, to insert the new text, so we call it the updated text, or the new text here, new text like this one, will be equal the original text like this, and that original text will be starting, if we put here the dot, so we'll be starting from the 0, and then the insert position like this here. And after that, what we are going to add is our add-on text. So this is the text that we need to add, or the new HTML that we have generated. And after that, just after that, we are going to add the original text again, like this. And instead of the insert position, that will be here. So we, from the insert position to the end. And this should generate the HTML that we need with a new updated HTML. So let's go back and return the new text. Okay, fantastic. So let's quickly then go back to update HTML. And what we are going to do then is to create here an HTML, or a new HTML, and that will be an empty string. Okay, And what we need to do then is each time we create an object, we will take this new HTML and add, so plus equal the HTML generated by the object. So each object will be generating a certain HTML. Okay, so this looks promising. And at the end, let's print the new HTML just to see what's going on and if everything is generated well. So let's save here and clean a little bit the console, CLS, and run it again. So let's go just refresh and then put some STM32, for example. Okay, so what do we do have here? So we do have a page count issue. Let's check. So this is working, and the print HTML is not actually what's going on. So programming, this one is correct. I think I didn't save it. So let's Control S, go back again, and I run the wrong file. That's why I run the file from the previous tutorial. So let's go back here and put 11. And yeah, run it again. Okay, resend. Okay, so we do have all our HTML generated for the books that we got from the Google API. So now that we do have this new HTML, we can use the function we created here, the self-update text. So we can do self.updated updated text. And based on this one, so updated text, we need to put the original text that we have, and this original text is the HTML itself. It's all this HTML. So we just need to add HTML, and after that, what we are looking for, the sentence that we are looking for in the HTML here that we need to catch, and that will be the div summary here. So let's bring it here. And finally, the text that we need to add and we want to add will be this one. I forgot. I have to put this one between parentheses, between brackets, and not the normal brackets actually. So I need to move and put only one. And after that, we add the updated new HTML. Okay. And we call this one final HTML, hopefully, HTML equal. Okay, and let's return it now. Return the final HTML. Okay, no, final, not final only, but final HTML. Okay, not final, oh God. Okay, so now here, instead of doing this do get only, what we can do, so here let's get our final HTML. Final HTML will be equal to what this updated HTML will come here. And instead we remove the do get, and what we need to have now is a different function, or that we can add. So we need to add a response, and this is we have seen in the part 1. And here we are not going to bring just the normal HTML, but we are going to bring the final HTML. Okay, Control V. Okay, so let's clean again. So CLS, and let's run the code, hopefully the right one. Okay, perfect. And let's refresh, make some research for Python, and we should expect seeing the list of the books, so the title, the page count, the author, and also the description. So now, just by creating this one, we do have the list of all the material that we need, and this is fantastic. So let's just run again. Okay, so now we do have a 440, so that works perfectly. So what we can do, so now we have the list and everything. Let's change a little bit the name. Let's see, STM32. Okay, so we do have books with the name STM32. That's fantastic. However, we can do some small improvement just to see, for example, what type of research we have done, just to be sure that our research or we type the right word. So what we can do is go back a little bit to this final HTML, play with it a little bit more, just to have an updated data on this one. So what we can add on this final HTML is inputting this time instead of HTML, we are going to modify our final HTML, and we will go looking for not the summary, but the search item. So we will go looking for the search item. Where is this? Here, search item here, and we will be adding a small sentence, something simple and easy to help us to understand that, kind of like if we add the search for the book name like this. Let's put F here and the book name, and what we can add is this one like this. Okay, that looks okay. It seems there's an issue here. Book name, there's okay. What does it say? String is literal is the end term. Okay, what we can do, let's remove this. Because I didn't close my string, that's why. Okay, so let's save this, Control C, and run the code again, refresh it. Let's say Thinking Fast as a book, and we do have search for the book named Thinking plus Fast, and we do have this book Thinking Fast and Slow and Thinking Fast and Slow, and that's quite a very good book that I would advise to read. So now we do have a little bit more information that helps us. Then finally, just to improve our response from the server perspective or the program, let's clear a little bit what's happened in the post perspective. So before we start even looking for giving the response, let's have a quick check. Before even we create the HTML, let's do something important. We check if the dict form, this one, so we put if this dict form dot, and we are looking for this one, this a title here. So if this one is empty, if it's equal to nothing, what we need to do is better just to put a self dot, and we do the do get. So if there is no data inside the form, we just go back to the initial one. Else here, so if we do have data, then we can start updating our HTML. And even within this one, we should add a small try. Like we can try all this. So because sometimes something wrong may happen. So we can try this one. And as an exception, so here, this is a way to better handling if something goes wrong within our program. So we put exception as E. We can print E, okay? But also what we can do is create a small error message. So we can have an updated HTML or final HTML and create a small change. So we can go to this one here and take this, just this same thing, so here, and we can call it just error HTML or error response, so def as a new method, so HTML or response error. Let's call it response error like this, and here we are going to get only self, and then what we need to do just like this one, and we are going to return the final HTML. So return final HTML. Just a moment. Final HTML. Okay, something is, yeah, final with a small letter at the beginning. And here we are inserting here about, we can say something went wrong. Just to have the information went, just a moment, went wrong, like this. And actually what we can add the error here, and something went wrong, and we can put the error like this. So we can have this new HTML. So we get here again, so we go back and we can get the final HTML that will be equal to a self dot HTML error. Where is it? So let's bring it, response error, this one, response error, and we pass the error here. And finally, we set the response and we add the final HTML. So what will happen if there is an error happening somewhere here and we can't even do this operation? We don't have the server jamming, but we will receive an error and saying that something is wrong. So let's try to do it now. Let's try to generate an error. So we run it again. So let's run this one and let's add some strange gibberish that maybe, okay, something went wrong. Okay, so local variable final in first before assignment. Okay, probably here, just a moment. Yeah, this one should be not final HTML, but should be HTML. Okay, let's close, rerun again. Okay, do it and put a lot of good gibberish here. Send it. Something went wrong with the item or what we inputted here. So we do have a very generic message that doesn't help, but this is the way where you can have something correct. And if I click here, okay, something resend. Okay, let's recheck it again. So on this, if this is empty and this is what did happen, let's try to find it. Okay, that works again. So you just have to click again. But you see, we could handle the error. And this is how you do have a whole code where you can look for a book. Like if I go for STM32, I do have a list of books. If you go for, let's try Vue. No, there's no Vue. And if there is a Python, for example, you can get all the book available regarding Python. So that was a tutorial that will help you to understand how to use the object-oriented programming for Python and also to play a little bit with the server. I hope that all of you have enjoyed this, and if you want to support us, just give a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episodes.